Yeah, hello everyone. Warm welcome from my side. I'm Verena, and I've decided to give this talk in English because many of my former female colleagues actually didn't speak German. But in case you feel more comfortable talking in German, we can also connect in German later. All right, so I am here to give you a quick guide to take agency of your career. But before we do that, let's do a bit of an experiment. I want you all to stand up and start shaking your body. Shake everything that you can, because these conferences are a lot, right? And we want to reset ourselves, refresh our minds to be able to take some more input in. So let's keep shaking a little longer. Shake everything you can, doesn't matter how it looks, you can close your eyes. All right, and then let's all stand still for a moment. If you want, close your eyes or just lower your gaze. Take a moment to check in with yourself, connect with yourself. Then open your eyes again, and you can sit down again. Thanks for experimenting with me. So, quick intro, who am I? I'm Verena, and I've been working in AI for over 8 years. So most of the time, I was in technical roles like data scientist, machine learning scientist, research scientist, and I worked at companies like Amazon, Deloitte, and eBay. And since about a year, I'm actually a self-employed consultant, and I'm consulting companies on how to leverage AI. And I'm the founder of Women in Tech, and that is why I'm here today. So a bit of background story. Why did I actually found Women in Tech, and what is the goal of it? So like many other women in tech, I once believed that good work alone would get me ahead. But instead, it let me feel frustrated, exhausted, and quite honestly, unsure how to get what I wanted. Luckily, I had the chance to learn at Amazon about how to navigate the corporate environment, that there is more to doing good work, and good work alone does not simply get rewarded. And also had a little bit of a personal journey where I did yoga teacher trainings, sound bath facilitator trainings, and kind of navigated myself through all of these challenges. And I really enjoyed that at Amazon we had this community of women in AI, and I could actually talk with other women about the challenges I was facing. And I thought actually every woman in tech should have that kind of support. Not just community, but also learning these skills that I learned there. So that's why I decided to share my learnings through Women in Tech. And how I do that is through a newsletter, but also courses and one-on-one coaching. So yeah, if you like, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn or Instagram. And also there is my newsletter here on the QR code. But now let's actually get started. So I don't know why, but when I sent the outline for this course, I somehow wasn't aware that we just have 15 minutes. So I put a lot of stuff on the agenda. We're not going to make it through all of it. But so we're going to have a couple of deep dives into identifying and letting go of what's holding us back, how we can use our body to change old patterns, and finally, if we have time, working with fear, failure, and criticism. So we're going to dive deep into these three, but I still think that all of them are important, and that's why I want to start with saying like a few sentences about each of the things I listed here. All right, so we're going to start with build your support network. And I'm glad I let that one out because we heard a lot about that already. And I hope you attended the 2 previous talks. I can just reiterate and emphasize that I definitely didn't understand the value of a network early on in my career. And I mean, I had heard the thing that you got to build a network, but I didn't understand the value of it, and I just thought I wasn't good at it. But actually, it's not like a God-given thing. It can be, but if it's not, it's a skill that you can learn and you can just get better and more comfortable with it. And I would just really encourage you to keep practicing and get better at it. The next one I want to mention is communication is power. And I have found that oftentimes as women, we've been socialized to be more quiet, less opinionated, less outspoken. And also then when we enter these male-dominated environments, we are maybe often shy to hold back, or we are shy and hold back our opinions. At least that's what I did a lot. But we forget that communication is power. Yeah, and we heard about it from Linda. If you're not visible, you're being overlooked. If you are just doing good work and no one knows about it, it doesn't help. Yeah, and you gotta say what you need. And the other thing is also, how do you communicate with power? Right, because there's this, oh, I might think we can do, but I'm not sure. If you say it like this, it doesn't sound very convincing. I mean, you can still say, I think this might make sense. I'm not 100% sure, though. Right? It's exactly the same thing. You're communicating that you're uncertain about a thing, but the way you say it still makes a difference. The next one is embrace authenticity and community. Yeah, I think community is super important, and what I mean by community is more a group of peers, women that are going through the same things as you are, that are having similar goals, that you can share your challenges with. And also try to be as authentic as you can in the workplace. Because if you're being inauthentic just to fit in, that costs a lot of energy and it's not sustainable in the long run. I also want to talk about boosting confidence and self-advocacy. I've had this kind of behavior and also seen it in other female colleagues that women don't advocate for themselves as much as men do. And also, when I talk to managers who lead both women and men, they always confirm that the men are there like all the time, advocating for themselves, wanting that next promotion, kind of getting on their nerves, whereas the women don't ask at all, or they ask once and then just wait for it to happen. And I can see that is annoying, but that's just how it is. And yeah, I think it's really important to learn to advocate for yourself and build your confidence and self-trust, because that is often the reason why women don't do that as much. Enhancing visibility and personal brand. Yeah, we talked a lot about visibility already. Again, good work alone doesn't simply get rewarded. You need to make people aware of your achievements and the work that you're doing. And then finally, also a big one is prioritizing well-being and setting boundaries. I think that's also a very big one for women. I've often seen women, and I went through a phase myself, overextending themselves, thinking that if you want to be successful, you have to sacrifice your well-being, and you cannot set boundaries. You have to do what people expect of you, even though it doesn't always feel right for you. And maybe that's something you can, keep up in the short term to maybe this last mile on your promotion. But in the end, a career is a marathon and not a sprint. And it's not something that you can do all the time without severe consequences. All right, that was the summary of the stuff we're not going into. Now let's actually start with the deep dives. And before that, I quickly want to talk about how I see empowerment. So, to me, there's two sides. There is the outer, and there is the inner. And Linda has also talked a lot about the outer. So basically, what is it that companies can do? How can we change the system? How can we make people aware of unconscious bias and all this kind of stuff? And that is great. I mean, also companies having DEI programs, having measurements, taking care of hiring male and female in good proportions. That is great. But you can only control that to a certain extent. Yes, you can try to look for that kind of employer And yes, maybe you're lucky and you have a mentor or a manager that's very supportive of you, but it's not 100% in your control. And it's also not the only thing, because if somebody else tells you, hey, you're amazing, you're doing a great job, you should go for that leadership role, but you don't see yourself as that exceptional, as that great, then that person can tell you that as much as they want, right? You still need to believe it. So that is why I want to focus today on the other side of empowerment, which is the inner focus. And that basically means, how do you perceive yourself? How do you perceive situations? And how do you perceive the power that you possess? All right, so the first thing is, what is usually holding us back from the inner empowerment? And the first step is to identify what that is. So oftentimes there's a lot of limiting beliefs that run the show. Things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the right background, I don't went to the right university, all this kind of stuff. That often leads to a lot of shame and guilt, which are emotions that basically bring us in a freeze state. Yeah, it's also something, I mean, you might have heard about imposter syndrome, right, where you constantly feel like you're not meeting other people's expectations or you're feeling you're not good enough. That leads to a lack of confidence. A lot of women have a very harsh inner critic and a lot of negative self-talk going on. And often, and I definitely used to strive for perfection. I wanted to be perfect. I didn't want to make mistakes because I thought I need to be perfect to be successful. Which actually is a lot of bullshit, because you're never going to be perfect and you're always going to make mistakes, and mistakes is what you're learning from. So there's no point in beating yourself up about it. It's basically just holding you back. So what we want to do instead is we want to reframe these negative things into more compassionate and encouraging beliefs. So for example, if you're telling yourself, oh, I don't have the right background, everyone else around here studied math, but I studied, I don't know, something else, then instead of seeing that as a negative thing, to say, okay, I have a different background, I bring a different perspective to the team, which is amazing because we are more successful if we have diverse perspectives and diverse team members. Same thing if you're telling yourself, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't know this or that. Yeah, just be confident that you can learn everything and anything. And this is what I mean by adopting a growth mindset. It doesn't maybe happen from one day to the next that you become really good at that skill that you're still lacking. I mean, I didn't learn programming in a day or a year, and it felt like I would never learn it, but eventually I did. And it's just this thing that you have to be confident you can learn everything that you want to. All right, I actually do have some calls to action for you, so I want you to go away with this with something to do. If you want, just send me a message. I'm happy to share the slides, because what I have here is I linked a list of limiting beliefs. And what I want you to do is go through that list, see which of those resonate with you, and then reframe them into something more positive, more encouraging. The other thing I'd like you to try out is renaming your inner critic. And yes, it sounds a bit weird, but it's a very good way to actually distance yourself from that negative self-talk. So then whenever that shows up, you can say, oh yeah, I know it's you, shut the fuck up. I know I did that mistake, but I'm getting better at it. And it might sound silly, it might sound weird, that doesn't matter. Just, allow yourself also to take it with a bit of humor, be a little bit playful with it. I know we're all adults, we're all in tech. We're so serious, but we don't have to be so serious all the time. All right, the next one is rewiring your patterns. And that's little bit what we just did in your mind. But this one is more about rewiring your patterns with a different tool. Because usually we always think that the mind is the only tool that we can use to solve a problem. And that might be true if it's about a coding problem. But if it comes to rewiring the way you think, the way you feel, we also have another tool, and that is the body. And we often forget about this body and mind connection. I mean, I definitely wasn't taught it. Like, I grew up in Germany in this Western traditional mindset that what you think and feel doesn't impact your body, and what you do with your body doesn't impact how you think and feel. But that's actually not true. And I have found that the body is a very potent tool to change those patterns that I mentioned, and it has worked for me much faster than just doing it on an intellectual basis. So there is two things I want to share today. The first one is the breath. So why is the breath such a powerful tool? The breath is a direct key to our nervous system. And the nervous system is the control center of our body. It basically runs the show. It decides how you think and feel. And if you use the breath, you can influence the nervous system and as such, influence the way you feel and think. So the first breath exercise that I listed here is super simple. It's just long, deep breathing. And all that means is you breathe deeply into your belly, up into your chest, up to the clavicle, and then you release the air out in the reverse order, from the clavicle, from the chest, and finally from the belly. Pretty simple. You can do this anywhere and everywhere. No one's gonna even notice. Yeah? The second one's also simple. It's called box breathing. It's called box because you inhale, you hold, you exhale, and you hold again, all for the same count. Can be 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you feel comfortable with. So I want us to try that out together. We're just going to do a count of 5. That should be accessible for everyone. So please close your eyes, or if you don't feel comfortable with that, just lower your gaze, find a spot in front of you, and just reconnect to your breath. Just put all your focus, all your attention on the breath. It's not something that all of us do all the time. We usually usually the breath is just there without us giving any attention to it. But see if you can somehow feel the in and out flow of your breath and pay attention to the movements it creates in your body. And then let's all take a deep inhale through the nose together. Exhale completely. And now inhale for a count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale, last round. Hold. Exhale. Last hold. And inhale again, coming back to your natural rhythm of breath, keeping your eyes still closed or lowered for a moment. And just take a moment to check in with yourself. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more calm. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more centered. And then let's all take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale. And open your eyes again. Welcome back. If you want, you can shake yourself out a bit. Come back here into the space. And we're going to continue with the next part, which is posture and body language. And you might have heard that what you say is sometimes not as important as the rest of your communication, right? So how we hold our body, the posture, that sends a message to people, but it also sends a message to us. So if I stand like this, head hanging, shoulders to the front, I mean, I don't seem very confident. I don't project a lot of optimism. It's also hard for me to feel confident or optimistic. If you want, try it out. And now let's do the opposite. Come into a very straight, upright position. Pull your shoulders back. Lift your sternum. Bring your head parallel to the chin and parallel to the floor, the chin parallel to the floor. Take up some space. Now that feels different, doesn't it? Now let's take it a step further. Let's all get up again. And now bring your arms up. Take up some space physically. You can also bring your feet wider than hip width. And you can start a long, deep breath here. And if you really want, you can start like, yay, yes, yes, jump, jump. So, okay, I get it, it feels awkward, but it shifts some energy. And if you're like in a low mood or you're feeling nervous before a meeting or presentation, this moves the energy, moves the emotions out of your body. Okay, thank you everyone. If you want, you can sit back down again. So again, call to action is here. Identify a power pose or move that you then hold for 60 seconds or 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Just experiment with it a little bit, and it's okay if it feels weird if you're doing it for the first time, but I promise you'll get used to it. The other thing I'd like you to encourage is to just use breath exercises before an important presentation or a big meeting. Whenever you feel nervous or need a little bit more confident, just try these breathing techniques to center yourself. Okay, how much more time do I have?
Not at all. Like we're way over time.
Okay,
but
no,
wait. But the next keynote is actually cancelled, so we have a little bit more time because we did a little bit of a yoga and meditation exercise here. So you have. I can give you until 1 p.m. 7 minutes.
Okay, then we can do this one too, because this is also important. Embracing fear, failure, and criticism. So I think many of us are told that if you're fearful, if you're scared, that's a sign to stop. And you can only do things if you don't feel any fear. And actually, that's not true, right? So courage is not the absence of fear. It's just being fearful and doing things anyway. So you can just reinterpret fear as a sign that you're out of your comfort zone and that you're getting to do some growth instead of, okay, I'm not doing anything I'm scared of. And that also relates a lot to failure. I think one of the biggest fears that we have is to fail at something, because then we're ashamed of what other people would say and we look like we're incompetent and we don't know things and all this kind of stuff. And yes, I mean, failure is not going to feel pleasurable, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity to learn. And there is only really success and failure. So it's not either or. And if you talk to successful people, they will tell you a lot that failure is a part of success. And usually what goes on in our head and how we think that other people will see our failure and what they, like all the negative things that they will say about us is actually usually not even true. And then finally, criticism. Coming back to what I mentioned, I was trying to be perfect. So of course I didn't want to be criticized. But also there, criticism can be an opportunity for growth. But as a woman, or as women in general, I mean, there's a lot of studies that show women receive a lot more unconstructive feedback than men do. So it's also very important here that you learn to discern what kind of feedback you're actually taking in and allowing in, and what is the kind of feedback you're not allowing in. And this can be, of course, in terms of how people say it, who says it, when they say it. Yeah, so you don't have to please everyone, but you need to learn who are the people you can trust that can give you honest feedback that help you grow. So, call to action here is write down your biggest career fear and then create an action plan to face it. So a lot of women that I coach, one of their biggest fears is doing talks, giving presentations. If that is, so as an example, if that would be your biggest fear, then just create a plan how you can start slow, like with a small presentation, maybe in your team, you know, all people you know, and then you kind of grow from there. You take it bigger and bigger and bigger. Because in the end, the fear will just go away if you face it, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. Yeah, and then the other thing is, I think also here, often we're taught to push away feelings and to avoid feelings. I found it's much easier to feel the feelings, to let them flow through you, because then you felt them and you kind of moved them through your body, and they're not kind of holding you back subconsciously all the time. So what I would like you to encourage is just sit with the fear, try to feel it. Can you feel it in your body? And then again, you can start the breathing exercises that we did to then move it through you. Okay, so this is just a little bit of a list how you can also use AI tools for some of the things that I touched upon. Again, if you are interested in the presentation, just reach out to me, send me a message. And now it's really time for you to take action, to take at least one of the things I suggested and experiment with it. And once again, here's the opportunity to connect with me. If you have any questions, send me a message. Also, come talk to me. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. And I would be happy to hear if any of the things I suggested helped you in any way. Thank you very much for being here.